Hey everyone, this is Ian Carlin. Welcome to A Mind for Fitness. You're in the place where we talk about the important issues regarding health and fitness, because we want to see you reach your weight loss goals. And if you've reached your weight loss goals, we want to see you maintain your weight loss goals and not fall back into old habits. As I have done, if you follow me on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, you know about my recent struggles. And I have not done an episode yet of A Mind for Fitness where I talk about it specifically. And today is the day that I'm going to do that officially on the show. So, if you want a more complete story of what I'm going to be sharing here today, you're going to have to go to Instagram and follow me on A Mind for Fitness and YouTube there, because that's kind of where I'm like video logging and taking pictures and things like that. So let's break it down, because, and this is kind of weird because I get like between 2 to 3,000 downloads a month off of the podcast, but I've got like 10 YouTube subscribers. So I'm trying to up my YouTube cred. Um, uh, and part of the problem with that is my own problem, is my own fault. I didn't really like put a lot of stuff on YouTube. And so I'm just kind of starting to like make some stuff exclusive to YouTube. To kind of to just kind of up my YouTube credibility and get more subscribers there, guys. So I just haven't really been active on YouTube, but I want to change that, and I want to actually do more on YouTube. And I actually have done more on YouTube, so that people who want more content from the show, want a little more insight into me and my life, can find out. So today's topic is why we let ourselves get fat. Uh, and um, I thought it was appropriate because I've had a setback recently. And on YouTube, I kind of document what happened, and I actually went in and got a scan done. It wasn't a DEXA scan, but I show like me weighing in, getting the scan done, getting everything done that where it measures my body fat percentage and things like that. Then I talk a little bit about what I thought went wrong. It was a little bit emotional, and my thoughts were a little bit disconnected. And I took a picture of myself with my shirt off in front of a mirror so that you can see exactly what I look like. And I've never done that. I have before and after pictures, but never with my shirt off, so you can see what I look like. So I noticed I was going up in my weight again, and I was keeping it around 210, sometimes 208, and like the lowest I ever got was 203, which was only 3 to 5 pounds away from my goal weight. I would really like to be under 200. 200 was my goal weight, but I'd really like to be under 200. Like 4 pounds away from my goal weight. And at the time, what I was doing was I was taking pictures of all my food, and I was uploading it to my Facebook page and Twitter and all that stuff, and just talking about making myself real vulnerable to online criticism. And what I told myself back then, I never announced this, but what I told myself is, if I don't make my goal weight, I'm going to take a picture of myself with my shirt off just to embarrass myself. Well, I never did that. So I let things get away, and the problem is that I had, well, I'll talk about the problem in a minute. So let's just talk about what happened. I got up to 217 again, which is, considerably down from 300 pounds, but still it's not where I wanted to be. And even one time the scale actually hit at 220, which is 20 pounds up from my 21 pounds up from my goal weight. And I went and got the scan, found out that I was at 26% body fat and that I had lost muscle. And I was just really upset. I was really upset. And so I said, okay, look, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a picture of myself with my shirt off, and put it out on the net. It's on my Facebook page. It's on Instagram. And I did a video of it me doing it, and it's on YouTube. So I decided, and this happened last Friday, so almost a week ago, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna start taking pictures again, and get myself down to my goal weight and do weekly weigh-ins. And I really want to do it this time. So I was really upset about this. I was really emotional. And I made a video about what I thought went wrong. That's exclusive to YouTube. It's not going to be here. Um, but I've had some time to think about it, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what went wrong, and what I'm doing to correct it. Okay, so it's difficult to process what went wrong because there's so many variables. It's not like I can just attribute it to one thing, and then there are other things that come into play as well, because this is not the first part of my weight, this is the last part of my weight, and that is much more difficult to get off than the first part of your weight is. And then you have all kinds of things going through your head, like, well, I've done, because every diet works for a while, then it stops working. It's just like, well, I've done intermittent fasting, and I mean, is that done? Is that, am I at the end of that? Do I need to go back onto a traditional diet? Am I working out too much, creating too much cortisol? All these thoughts are floating through my mind. And then I had a chance to kind of look objectively after my emotions kind of calmed down, and was able to look back on a level head. And I really kind of felt like there was a couple things going on. Number one, I'm not at the end of my intermittent fasting. The truth is I was getting lazy with my intermittent fasting. Instead of doing 16 hours to 20 hours to even 24 hours, I was getting away with some days even not having intermittent fasting, and doing like 14-hour fast or a 12-hour fast or something like that. And for me, because I've been overweight before, it's not enough. That's not tight enough as far as my fasting is concerned. So and just one of those things, like, I get sloppy. You know what I mean? I'll say, well, I'll do this, and then like I'll do it that day, but then I won't do it the next day. So I got a little sloppy with my intermittent fasting, and I got a little too sloppy with my cheat days. I was just having too many cheat days. Now, normally I have a cheat, and I never have like a full cheat day, unless it's like Christmas. That's about the only full day I have of a cheat day. Sometimes Thanksgiving, but even Thanksgiving, I don't really have the whole day. But normally Saturdays, for at least the last 10 months, has been kind of like my cheat day. My wife and I go out for breakfast, and I will allow myself to have whatever I want if I felt like I've been good for the week. Well, I haven't been good for the week, and I was having that cheat day anyway. It's normally like a late breakfast, sometimes like 11 to 1 o'clock, somewhere around there, just depending upon when we get out of bed, and it will be in a fasted state. But then what I've started noticing is over the last few weeks is we'll start going out to breakfast on Sunday too. And I know, maybe you don't know like my personal history or my personal beliefs or whatever, but we're kind of in between churches right now. And so like we're not really going to a church right now. And so normally, like Sunday would be like a pretty good fast for me. So I would cheat on Saturday, and then I would make up for it on Sunday. But Sundays now, it's been like 2 cheat days in a row. And whenever I do that, I'll tell myself it's okay because I'll fast the next day, to kind of make up for it. I'll work out really hard and fast or whatever. Well, I'm having 2 cheat days in a row, or a cheat breakfast and a cheat lunch, and then a cheat breakfast and a cheat lunch, or a high carb sugary lunch. And then the next day, then Monday, I won't even do a full 16-hour fast. It'll be like a 14-hour fast, and I'll go have breakfast, or I'll go have lunch with my friend, like an early lunch with my friend on Mondays. And normally I eat fairly clean on Mondays, but still it's too much when you've had 2 cheat days in a row. And then what was ended up happening was is I would go like, okay, so then Tuesday, dial it, like Monday, like a low carb day, but not a full fast. And then Tuesday, not a full fast, but a low carb day. And then Wednesday, sometimes I would cheat, sometimes I wouldn't. And then by are a difficult day in our family in the winter because, especially in school time, because um, my wife owns a private school, and by Thursday she gets home and it's just like we're just going to get pizza or something, or we're just going to get Chinese food. And normally, if I've been real tight on my fasting, I can get away with it and still lose weight, and it doesn't hurt me, or at least maintain. So like a lot of times what I was doing was I was like doing like a 20 to 24-hour fast on Tuesday and a 20 to 24-hour fast on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, a 20-hour fast, and then eat what I want that night. So it didn't really affect me. And then go back on a 20 to 24-hour fast on Friday. So I haven't been doing that. I've been I've been actually eating more on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and eating more bad food. So it's no surprise that I was up again in my weight, and probably should have been up higher, because 217 is not as high as as I've been since I started this channel. So the truth is I just got lazy around the edges, and and I'll talk about why in a minute. So, because I'm going to talk about that when we talk about why we let ourselves get fat in the first place, and why we let ourselves regain weight as well. Uh, so that's been the issue. That's been the problem with why I have gained weight back. So since last week, I've been video logging and taking pictures of my food. And if you want to follow that, and going to be doing weekly weigh-ins, and just tracking my progress and tracking my workouts and really tracking things down. And if you want to follow that, you're going to have to go to Instagram, a Mind for Fitness on Instagram, because I didn't want to upload it everywhere. I don't want to take a picture of what I'm eating and then upload it to Facebook, and a Mind for Fitness Facebook page, and Twitter, and Instagram, and a video on you. It's too much, too many pushing of the buttons. So I do sometimes upload it on Facebook and Twitter every once in a while, but mostly I'm tracking it on Instagram. So follow it on Instagram if you want to see my progress and what I'm planning on doing. So, and what I'm doing and what I'm planning on doing. So that's where that is. So let's get into today's program and why we let ourselves get fat. So one of the television shows that I watch to kind of keep myself motivated is the show My 600-Pound Life. And every time I watch that show, I look at these people who are morbidly obese, and I ask myself, how do they let themselves get that way? How do they let themselves get to be that overweight? And then I had to think, well, there was a time where I was overweight and I was never that heavy, but at the same time, there are people who would have looked at me and said, how do you let yourself get even that overweight? So there's always like this chain of people looking down saying, well, I wouldn't want to be here. I'm at last time I checked, I was at 217. And at this point, I'm like, I can't let myself get back that way again. Okay. So what happens? What is it that actually goes on that would let somebody gain weight and then gain weight to morbid obesity? And the first thing we have to say is that it's easy. Okay. I mean, I think we have to admit that it's easy on the front end, and it's difficult on the back end. Okay. So it's easy because, in the sense that you don't have to watch what you eat, you can eat what you want whenever you want. and and you don't have to push yourself to any type of physical exercise and make yourself uncomfortable that way. So it's easy to do on the front end, and then as you get more overweight, it becomes more difficult to take that weight off. Not that the weight doesn't come flying off, because it actually comes flying off better when you just first started, but it's difficult to go from like this rested position, this position where you just let yourself go, and actually get up and start doing a workout. So for me to do a workout right now is actually fairly easy, where when I was 300 pounds, to do a workout was fairly difficult. It was tough to do. And now I'm doing things at, 217, and hopefully all the way down to 200, under 200. Gonna do this now, okay? Not joking around. I'm gonna do everything that I can possibly do. But okay, so that aside, um, to do a workout like I can not run 3 miles now without really too much of a problem in about 30 minutes, around an average of about 30 minutes. Okay, so to do that at 300 pounds is impossible. It was impossible for me to do that. It was maybe I could have even a quarter mile when I first started. So it's harder at the end. It's harder at the end where you're overweight and fat, and it's easier to at the front end because you just let yourself go. So you have to take that into account. It is easier at the very front end because you can just let yourself go and eat whatever you want. And then once you start gaining weight, it's harder to actually motivate yourself to get off of sugar and actually get yourself to the gym and do what you need to do. So it's very okay. So one example of this is now I can do probably about 25 push-ups without breaking form. Okay, so I can probably do around 25 push-ups right now if you just said on the spot do push-ups. When I started, one of the first things I did when I started was I started with P90X too, and they did this push-up thing. This is like day one was push-ups. I could do 8 push-ups, and it was so difficult for me to do 8 push-ups. Now 8 push-ups is like nothing. 8 push-ups, I'll blow through 8 push-ups, no problem. So it's way difficult at the end. So I think that's the number one problem, is that it's easy. Now, the second reason we let ourselves get fat is due to the fact that the future doesn't come on all at once. In fact, the future comes on one day at a time, one meal at a time, one second at a time. It's not like tomorrow you wake up and you're 300 to 600 to 700 pounds. That's not how it works. The future comes on slowly, and it comes on just enough to let yourself get used to where you're at. And that's one of the big deals. So what happens is you um, you don't just get fat one day. It's like, okay, like, I'm in a large shirt. All right, well, my large shirt is getting a little tight on me. And then that stays for a little while, where your large shirt's a little tight on you. And then, well, next thing you know, it's a little too tight. So let's go up to an extra large. And then your extra large shirt is nice and loose and you feel kind of good. Boy, you only went up one size. You can always get back on it, right? Or you can always start it. Well, the next thing you know is your extra large shirt starts to become a little tight. And that's okay, because it's not like it's not like you went from, it being loose to not being able to fit into it one day. It was just a little tight, and then it's a little more tight. And then it's a little too tight. And so you go to 2X. And then a 2X feels good. And of course, you're just right out of 1X, which is okay. And then this process happens, and it happens with your pants, and it happens with your underwear, and happens just with everything, okay? So and you get on the scale, it's like, okay, so I'm at, I'm at 200, and then I'm at 205, and I stay 205 for a while, and then it's 210, and you stay 210 for a while, and it's two, and then maybe it's like, okay, from 210 to 220, it's like one leap. It's like, okay, well, now you're going by tens instead of fives. Well, see, it doesn't happen all at once. You stay there for a little while, then you jump up. So the future doesn't happen all at once. And part of changing right now is realizing that future is on its way. And this is what you will look like. So I take somebody who smokes, and you say, if they believed you, if you said, look, tomorrow you're going to have emphysema if you smoke this cigarette today, and they believed you, they would quit smoking. They would just, unless they're, had nothing to live for or something like that. But if you really believed that tomorrow you were going to have emphysema from this one cigarette that you had today, you would not smoke if you're in any type of a right mind. So so it's just, it's like the same thing. It's just like, well, it's one cigarette, and then it's just like, okay, well, next thing you know, after a year, you're just not quite as where you were. And then the next year after that, maybe you're smoking a little bit more, and then you're just a little down a little bit more, and a little bit, and then next thing you know, you're having a hard time breathing. But that stays for a little while, and you get used to it. The next thing you know, you're like, hey, there's a problem. I got to go to the doctor. Doctor says, hey, you have lung cancer, or whatever it is. It's the same thing that happens with putting on weight. And it happens one meal at a time too. It's not just with the outward body with what I'm putting on. It's, okay, you know what? I know I need to go on a diet, but you know what? I'm okay. I'm still in this extra large shirt, and it's a little tight, and I really want the cheeseburger with the bun and the fries, and I'll get that, and I'll get back to the gym. And then dinner comes. It's like, it's been a few hours, and you know what? I am hungry, and I'll go ahead and order the pizza, or so it happens that way. And like the next morning, it's just like, you know what? I'll go ahead and have pancakes. I know I get the rest of the day, and I'll go work out, or it's no big deal. My weight is, it's been like this way for the last little while, so it's okay. So the future doesn't come on all at once. If I told you, and then the person actually believed it, that tomorrow you are going to weigh 600 pounds if you eat that pancake today, like some magical trick, of the wand, that if you eat those pancakes, you're going to be 600 pounds. You would probably not eat them. You'd be like, oh, not eat. Okay. So anyway, that's why the future doesn't come on the next day. It comes on a little bit at a time. It comes on gradually. And if you want to change it, what you have to do is you have to make the future come all at once in your head. You have to say, what's it going to be like? What's it going to feel like? How am I going to look? How am I going to feel? What am I going to think about myself when I weigh 600 pounds? So there's you know what? I don't think anybody is really above that. I think that there are some people who could never get to 600 pounds. I think I could get to 600 pounds if I let myself go. I really do. And I was just totally, completely inactive, and just ate whatever I wanted. I mean, I would have to go through a lot of stuff first. I'd have to go through that 300-pound mark, and that 350 mark, and that 400-pound mark. I think I'd have to go through a lot of that first, but I think I could be one of those people who would be on 600-pound life. I have to remind myself I never want to be there. All right, so that's the second reason. The future comes on slow. So the third reason is that there's always somebody who's heavier. I just watched the 600-pound life last night, and there was about these two brothers, and they were both morbidly obese, but one of them was basically couldn't walk at all more than just a few steps, and one of them was completely morbidly obese, but he could still walk. Okay. So, and he actually said, well, I'm not like my brother, so I'm not really going to do the diet, or, get on this track to get lap band surgery or gastric bypass surgery. So that's the thing, is there's always somebody heavier than you. There's always the next door you can fit through. Now there's obviously people at the top end, you're wondering who's heavier than them. Okay, those are your outliers. That's your heaviest you can be. But it doesn't matter. Even when you're 600 pounds, there's somebody who's 700 pounds or 650. If you're 400 pounds, there's always somebody who's 500 pounds. You be 400 pounds and looking at the 600-pound life and say, well, I'm not like that, so there's no reason to change, right? Well, so it becomes an excuse because there's always somebody heavier than us. I know that. I go to the gym and I see the gambit of people. Okay, I'm not in the best shape I could possibly be in, but I'm way far from the worst shape I could possibly be in. And I know that there are people there who look at me and say, who are really overweight and look at me and say, "Oh, I wish I was just where he is." And I have to remind myself of that. Okay. But I also have to remind myself the other way and not use that as an excuse to say, well, I'm fairly in shape and I'm not where this guy is. So, I look pretty good. So I'm not where that person is. So, hey, all's good, all's well. All right. Can't do that. Can't do that. But that's the problem that I see with people who gain a massive amount of weight. They always have a friend that's heavier than them, or there's somebody on TV who's heavier than them. And so it just becomes this excuse that there's always somebody heavier than me. And if there's somebody heavier than me, well, then I'm not as heavy as I could possibly be. And that's okay. And that justifies me eating this high carb, sugary, processed meal, processed food. So that's the other thing. Now, this last one is for people who have lost weight and then they start regaining it back, because I find that happens a lot. Now, of course, it has happened with me right now, but luckily I've dialed it down and noticed and I'm doing something about it fairly early on, and then just going to push myself to this goal. But I have, in the past, kind of let myself get overweight again. One time I was at 227, and I was at 227 for a long time. And then I got back up to 240, and that's when I discovered intermittent fasting, and then got all the way down to 203, and intermittent fasting was a part of it the whole way. So I've let myself get overweight in the past. So what happens with me? And then I see this on the 600-pound life with people who do get gastric bypass surgery and who unfortunately don't change their mental state. They don't change and that is the biggest thing. It's not just the diet, because you can force yourself to go on a diet and lose weight, and then lose weight enough to get the gastric bypass surgery. But if you don't, sorry, I snorted there. But if you don't change your outlook on food, if you don't change your relationship with food, you will gain weight again. And what I see is these people gaining weight again. You follow them after a year. Some of them don't. Some of them is because of the diet. Okay, I have to say that sometimes it's because of the diet. So one person I really like him is Chris Powell, and I've talked about him in the past about how I have mixed emotions about him. And I will look at some of his, like, where are they now kind of things, and they're always kind of gaining weight back a little bit. Um, and that really is a result of the diet. Now, his diet is great if you're looking to lose weight on the front end, but it's not maintainable. It's really difficult to maintain a diet like that. You look at the Biggest Loser. You're not going to be able to work out that hard every day, and you're not going to be able to eat 6 small meals a day for the rest of your existence. It's a difficult way to live. So why do we let ourselves? So I see that people regain weight. Okay. Now, one of the biggest factors for me in regaining weight, especially when I went back to, like, from down to 300, then to 227, then back to 240. So that's only 60 pounds away from 300. the biggest factor is I wasn't as fat as I was. So I always think, well, I'm still down from 300 pounds. And that's what was going through my head. I'm like, oh, I'm still down from 300 pounds. I'm still not where I was. So I guess it's okay. Or I guess I don't have to worry about it or dial it in. So I'm still, well, I'm not where I was. I'm not that anymore. So it's okay for me to eat these pancakes. It's okay for me to do this or do that. So that's why people regain weight once they've lost weight. And that's part of letting yourself get fat. That's what happens. So that's it. Those are the reasons we let ourselves get fat. Let me go through them one more time. Number one, it's easy on the front end and difficult on the back end. All you got to do is not do anything. Let yourself eat whatever you want and enjoy your food, right? I mean, that's great. But number two, the future comes on slow. Number three, there's always somebody heavier for you. And if you're regaining weight, one of the things you have to look for in your own mind is um, is the fact that uh, you weren't as heavy as you were. So, I wasn't heavy as I was. So if I put on an extra 50 pounds, no big deal. I'm still down 50 pounds, right? So those are the reasons why. All right. Well, thank you for joining me today. That's it for Mind for Fitness. If you want to see my workouts that I'm doing and my food tracking, you're going to have to go to Instagram and follow me there, and YouTube and follow me there, because that's basically where I'm going to be posting my video logs and what I'm doing. So follow me on those two platforms, and you're always welcome to follow me on Facebook at A Mind for Fitness and Twitter at A Mind for Fitness. And if you like what you heard, please share this on your favorite social media and write a review on iTunes or Stitcher Radio or Podbeam or wherever you heard this. I would really appreciate that. And thanks so much for listening. I did have something that I wanted to say. Oh yeah, okay. So I'm going to be putting out another ebook real soon here, like real soon. What I decided to do was so I put out this ebook on intermittent fasting. So please go buy that ebook. It's really a way to show support. It's free. It's on Amazon. It's called Fasting to Break Your Plateau. And I've been trying for years to try to write this big book called Overcoming Obesity. And the problem is every time, about every 6 months, I want to update it and it's never complete. So what I decided to do was, instead of writing this one big book, I'm going to go ahead and just release pieces of it as ebooks, like small little ebooks that'll be free for Amazon Prime users and $2.99. You got $3. Show us some support and some love. So buy these. So I'm going to be releasing this ebook fairly soon here, on why your diet's failing you. All the things that go wrong when you're dieting, and how to fix it. So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing, because it's been something that I've had written down for a long time, but it was going to be a larger work, and it was going to be part of a body of larger work. But I'm going to 86 that. I'm just going to go ahead and release it as an ebook. And then once I get a few of these ebooks together, what I'll do is I will release like a paperback book, but it'll just be like 3 or 4 ebooks together in one book. Okay. So that's what's going on. So look for that. And if you want to show us some support, please go buy the book. Go buy the one that's already out, Fasting to Break Your Plateau, A Basic Guide to Intermittent Fasting. Free, right? You don't have any excuses. Hey, thanks so much for joining me on A Mind for Fitness. Till we meet again, please keep your mind on fitness.